This episode is brought to you by Essentia. A better you starts with better hydration. Essentia is on a mission to inspire people to do what matters most. Their proprietary ionization process transforms water from any source into ionized alkaline water, providing water that's 99.9% pure with a pH of 9.5 or higher. Essentia Overachieving H2O, the #1 ionized alkaline water. Shop now.
This episode is brought to you by Intuit, the technology platform that brings financial confidence with products like TurboTax, Credit Karma, QuickBooks, and MailChimp. You might have learned the recorder in school, but probably not how to navigate the financial world. Luckily, Intuit's on a mission to help with the free Intuit for Education program. It provides students with the lessons to learn essential skills, like how to build credit, file taxes, and budget. Check out their free resources at intuit.com/education.
Hey guys, welcome to this week's podcast episode, and I've got a fantastic guest for you today. All of you high functioning professionals that may feel stressed, worry, anxious, maybe even depressed or just distracted. I've got Anna Mikeda. She's a psychologist, but she's got a very interesting slant because she incorporates a lot of new age and different tools and techniques to help clients achieve more focus, less burnout, less worry, manage stress, and even manage anxiety. So I'm really curious about these techniques, and I think for the audience out there, we're all suffering from stress or burnout, and so Anna is the perfect guest for today's show. So Anna, welcome.
Well, thank you so much for having me.
Yeah, and so I always love talking about your paths and journey because that's kind of like very inspiring and it provides groundwork for talking points. So talk about your path to specialization. How did you come into this? And I really love your approaches. You use a lot of different techniques to help professionals. And how did you come by this?
Well, as far as I know, all people who go into psychology, they have some problems, and they're like, okay, I'm just going to go and just solve them. And that was me as well. I had a lot of questions about human nature when I decided to study psychology. And later, as my private practice progressed, and I was working with a lot of clients, and I started noticing something about me. I started noticing that, even though I was working with clients, I was, doing a lot of things. I was having like a very successful, so to speak, life, like digital nomad, all of that. And yet I was never really happy. I was never fully calm because I was always like on a buzz. There was always like something I had to do, something more. And I started, I realized that that's maybe not normal. Like maybe having this feeling of constantly being overwhelmed by life, like maybe that's just not how we're supposed to be. And that's how I realized that at the time I had high functioning anxiety. And even though I could do things, I could, talk to people, I could be successful, and yet every day was like a little battle. And I started searching, I started digging, and I was digging for actually a pretty long time because there are a lot of different approaches that talk about anxiety, but none of them, in my opinion, actually solve it. And what does solve it, it's like a holistic, an integral approach that combines several different methods. And so once I had those like checkpoints, a real change happened for me. And I did actually change from feeling like I have to achieve something, I have to be very successful, I have to, try harder, into a state where I actually really just enjoy my work and I do what I can. I follow my plan. I follow it pretty closely. But once the work is done, it's done, and I get on to other things and I just feel very present.
Yeah. And this idea of high functioning anxiety. And so one thing I am curious about is where do you think this high functioning anxiety originates? Because here, is it the media? Is it kind of like within? Is it just we're just constantly bombarded with information? Where does high functioning anxiety come from?
Well, it's a really good question. I love it. I think you are spot on. Media has a lot to do with it, and social media and 30-second, reels of somebody having a beautiful life definitely fits into that. But also, so there's another thing that is a little bit deeper. This is where psychology really comes in. Because very often we put demands on ourselves that are, first of all, not realistic, like they cannot even be achieved. And secondly, that's not really what we want. It's maybe something that our parents wanted, or that society wants, or our boss wants it. So we put very high pressure on ourselves, and we start, when the limit, like when the ideal is unreachable, and we constantly compare ourselves to this ideal, we start feeling like a little bit angry with ourselves because we can't achieve it. And that means because we want to achieve it, so we try harder and we get even more controlling and even more rigid inside ourselves. And that moves our goal even further away because all of a sudden we have this inner conflict, this inner fighting happening all the time. And so to put it like very shortly, I think anxiety in itself, and especially high functioning anxiety, comes from too much control that we put on ourselves. And control comes from too much demands that are either unrealistic or are just not ours. In it, like they were given to us, they were told to us, and we accepted them. So, and while I'm not saying that we need to let go of control and, like free love, like living without money, just like, babies of children, like just like having nothing to do with life. That's not what I'm saying. Like we still need, our adult self being able to plan, being able to, just be responsible. And yet it's about this balance between trusting yourself to do, what is needed and having very clear, having vision of yourself and what is important to you and why you do what you do, like being based on your values instead of on what you think you should do.
Yeah. I've been doing a lot of thinking, and one of the things I was thinking about is you think that high functioning anxiety is because we have all our basic food all our basic needs met now. We have like clothing, before we had to like hunt for food, we had to like carry buckets of water, shelter, all these basic needs that our society has advanced, and so now we have to invent these problems like anxiety or status or all these things. Do you think that's a function of more like people are looking for happiness, self-fulfillment, self-actualization? Talk about where that fits in.
So yeah, to answer this question, we should go back in time to our evolutionary ancestors who really needed anxiety, because anxiety is like a smaller version of fear. Yeah, it just tells us something is a little bit off and you need to fix it. And sure, for our ancestors, it was very important. And when they had anxiety, they would go and fix it, and then they would go on with their life. And so it would be fine. But as the society progressed and society started putting up those additional requirements on how we should be, on how we have to, be successful. Yeah, how we have to have status. And what happened then is that our society, in many ways, is very neurotic. I'm speaking here mostly about Western society that, values money and status and how many cars you have, how much you make, success, and, all of that things that sure are important, but are not the most important thing. But when we live in that society, we take in its demands as if they're our own. We internalize them. And all of a sudden, we have to prove to ourselves that I'm worthy of love. I'm, good enough to have, a high-paying job. Because really, it's not about money. Because money it's important, but money is really more about status. And status is really more about love, surprisingly.
Mm.
Because if we have high status, we assume we will be respected and, loved more. I mean, it's a mistake. It's something called a cognitive mistake, but we make it all the time. And we think if we're more successful, we will be liked by other people more, especially by opposite sex, but not necessarily. And so that creates this whole dynamic when instead of accepting ourselves and just being really cool about how we are and valuing our differences, we have those standards of successful person that we have to, be like. And we start forcing ourselves, overworking, taking ourselves to the level of burnout just to prove that we can actually achieve this, ethereal status. So bringing this all back to the question, it is about our society because we have a lot of our needs covered. Our society by its nature creates certain standards, to make us enter the rat race, and that's a reason for anxiety. So yeah.
Yeah, very beautiful answer. And because I grew up here. I was born here, grew up here. And the more I look at things, I'm like the Western world has it backwards. Because like you go to places like Europe and people are just more family focused. They're more friendly. They're kinder to nature. And then you step off the plane into like any major city here in the States, and you can feel that rush. It's like because people, like you step off the plane in Los Angeles and people are just like mean and screaming. It's just crazy. It's like I think it's perpetuated by media because they want you to consume more things, more food, more, all this stuff. And it's just kind of just advertising and who's thinner, who's prettier, who's, all this stuff. Which brings me to my next question is the these integration of techniques. And what's really interesting is I love how you incorporate, CBT, you got hypnosis, you got qigong. Where did this idea come from, and why you use so many different techniques from different fields to help your clients?
So it was my own path. Like all of those techniques helped me, but helped me only in one way. And so by combining them, I think that gives the best result. So if I would kind of flesh out a little bit my method, it's very important to start with surprisingly coaching to understand what are your true values. Like what do you really want? Like when is your heart most happy? Because that's the state that we want to, achieve in the end. Second part of it is working with the conscious mind, so the psychology. And this is where cognitive behavioral therapy comes in, when we learn to notice different cognitive mistakes that we make. When we think that, for example, a rich person has a really beautiful car, he will be loved more. Yeah, that's not logically true. And yet we think, unconsciously that that's what's happening. So part of it is working through our thinking mistakes. Part of it of working through our thinking that creates anxiety, because there are certain ways of thinking that is like one-way ticket to anxiety. So you should learn to notice them and kind of learn to flow, not stop them, because stopping them also gets you in trouble, but learn like navigate them. So there's like a special technique. But often the problem lies deeper with the unconscious mind, because very often anxiety, remember anxiety is fear essentially. People who are more prone to be anxious, sometimes they had some episode in their past, in their childhood, when they were scared or just traumatized. And that experience needs to be relived and healed. And that is difficult to do on the conscious level. we need to tap into the unconscious level, and that is pretty easy to do with like guided meditation and very light hypnosis. So that's kind of working on your psyche, on your psychology. And then the last element is working with just like your routine, your day routine, how much social media you consume a day, what is your food, how many hours of sleep do you get, because all of that is crucial for healthy balance of sympathetic and parasympathetic nervous system, so of stress and relaxation. So, and I found that meditation, mindfulness, and Qigong, which is like Chinese energy work exercises, they help a lot to teach you how to calm your mind, so your mind doesn't jump from one thing to another, doesn't try to to do like three things at once, that your mind is present, that it can focus, and it has clarity. So it has like correct vision. It sees what is really in front of him instead of his own jumble of thoughts. So that's basically my approach in a nutshell.
The most exciting part of a vacation stay at a home rental? Easy. It's being greeted upon arrival with a rusted lockbox affixed to the underside of a stranger's condo. Yeah, you simply twist knobs, click gears, jiggle it, and then rip it off its moorings, and voila! Your prize is a key to a questionable home rental and maybe tetanus. When you just want to get your vacation started by actually getting into your room, it matters where you stay. At Hilton, we deliver your key right to your phone on the Hilton Honors app. Hilton, for the stay.
Look, Bumble knows you're exhausted by dating. All the must not take yourself too seriously and 6'1" since that matters. And what do I even say other than hey? Well, that's why they're introducing an all-new Bumble with exciting features to make compatibility easier, starting the chat better, and dating safer. They've changed, so you don't have to. Download the new Bumble now.
Yeah, I love that. And I can, just from your, your personal aura and your vibe is very, very flow and able to, one thing that you bring back is, what I love is, here in the, again, I kind of use the West as kind of the scapegoat, but, you were talking about, one that came to my mind is, like money is it's a number, and usually it's paper and ink. So it's just kind of just an idea. It's how we store value, how we transfer value, how we exchange, goods and services. But then here we use it for the wrong reasons. We use it leads to greed, and we try to use it to exert status over others, and we use it for wrong things, but there's a lot of things that we can do for it. So, and then the question is this impact of meditation, because I really recently kind of really it's really powerful because you can just calm yourself. And so talk about that's like a core component. And how do you help professionals manage stress and enhance cognitive function amidst, like, for example, like how can a tech executive where his company is collapsing, or all this stuff, and he can basically use meditation, focus, and pull his company out, him or her, sorry. But
Well, let's talk about mindfulness. So mindfulness consists of three main things, as defined by one of the famous mindfulness teachers, Shinzen Yang. So he talks that mindfulness is a combination of concentration, clarity, and equanimity, or serenity, in other words. So if we take this example of this CEO who has like a company going down and like unpleasant things happening in his life, mindfulness can help him, well, first of all, stay concentrated on the task in front of him. So not like a jump, okay, I also need to do this, I also need to do this, but really one step at a time. Clarity will be able to help him see things clearly. So not to make illusions, not to make mistakes, not to overthink things as well. And equanimity This is like the most important one, serenity for this particular case, because it teaches not to be either attached to something. So it teaches us not to try to hold on to something forever, or on the opposite scale, to push something away. Like, I don't want this, this should never happen. Because just as Stoics used to say, like, we can control only so much. We can control our reactions with the outer world. That's beyond most times out of our control. So serenity really helps to cultivating qualities of serenity really helps to accept that even though failing company is not ideal, but that's the way the world is now, and not blame or like not eat yourself about it. Just allow this to be part of the experience, unpleasant part, but still, it's still possible to live through this. And serenity really gives this ability to step back from something, breathe out, and then continue doing whatever you have to do to save the company, but just without the feeling like that, So it's more chill, it's like, okay, one step at a time.
I love that. And the other thing is, kind of, I tend to blow things out of proportion and make stories and prejudge and, but I love this idea where you just basically bring it back into focus and you focus on, and it's usually you work your way through it. So I love that. How can people reach out to you and find more about you, your unique approach, and kind of take it in and reach out to you and work with you?
Well, I have LinkedIn. I have YouTube, where I regularly post guided meditations and just some information about how to remain cool and balanced. Of course, I have Instagram. So one of those channels, people can reach me.
Excellent. Audience, let's thank Anna for coming on and sharing her approach, and be sure to give her socials a like and follow, and reach out to her, work with her if it fits your resonates with you. And with that, thanks so much for coming on.
It was my pleasure. Thank you.